A very good afternoon to you, everybody. We are very excited to be on our program this Saturday on the Empowered Life program. And this is a program where we bring you messages of hope, where we bring you messages of healing and restoration. And we gather here as the body of Christ. And today we have a very exciting topic: finding strength, healing, finding hope, and wisdom in sharing our challenges with others. And so, in today's episode, we are looking at how trust, in particular, is a very important or essential ingredient in helping us to be able to find our go to, find a safe space in someone, in our brothers, in our sisters, in a neighbor, in a colleague, to be able to share our challenges, our fears. And I think a big part of this reflection, or as we go through the program, we love to nudge ourselves into reflecting on all of life's issues and how we do life, how we connect and engage with the challenges, with the ups and the downs of life, and how we focus on our emotional space, our inner space, our emotional healing, and how we guard our hearts, because the issues of life flow from the heart. And so today we've come asking ourselves this question in reflection. Is trust important? Is finding someone you can trust important? And we are leaving these as thoughts for you as we begin this program today. And as you go on with your lives, we hope that you can use this to be able to help you, to anchor you in hope, in healing, as you do life every day. And also use that as a tool to help others when you are connecting with them or encouraging them to open up and talk to someone. Find someone that you can connect with and actually share your challenges or your fears. And so we're looking at, is that important to find trust? And what are the challenges maybe that we have that make us fail to actually connect and build that trust and actually be able to share what we are going through with others? And also, another thing we want to look at is the issue of men. Do men in particular find it more challenging to do this? What challenges do you face as a man? Old man, young man, married man, single man? I think today we really want to hear from the men, and we have our brothers to take us through some of those answers or their own experiences to what I am asking. And so, how can we find hope in all this and be able to become better and navigate life's challenges as men? So, is trust an important issue? And what are some of those impediments to building that level of trust to help us? Where are some of those fears? What are some of those areas that might be very crucial for your own well-being, emotional well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being? How does the building this level of trust, how can it help us to navigate, and what sort of challenges might we be thinking of that might need us or that we might benefit from when we actually build those levels of trust and do this? So thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll hand it over straight to you so you can lead us today, because the big focus for us today is men in particular, although women alike, we can also participate and contribute. And sometimes we also might be those people that the men need to go to as wives, as mothers, as aunties. How can we better support men in our environment, looking at the challenges that or the narratives that sometimes we hear in society? Men should just men up, boys men up. So you then think, how then do I open up about what I'm going through? Does this make me less of a man? Am I going to be viewed as being a weak man? because I am sharing some of my fears and challenges. How can we encourage one another today? Over to you, gentlemen, and you can introduce yourselves and where you are.
Okay, thank you so very much. My name is Michelo from Zambia.
My name is Victor from Zambia.
So this is one important topic that we have to look at, the issue of trust. It's happening all over, and I think there are two aspects that we are going to look at, or we should look at, with regards to trust. Number one, we're going to look at the individual with the burden and the person that should be trusted as it is. Two individuals here. So first and foremost, we're living in a time where you see life is full of issues and life is full of problems as it is. But you find here's a situation where somebody is in a problem and they're wondering, how am I going to come out of this problem? And most people have died with problems because they're looking for a place that they're going to trust for them to, offload those problems in seek or in return of guidance, direction, or strengthening one another as it is. And the high numbers or levels of suicide today have increased because people today are looking, or people today are in short of people that can be trusted with their issues. For example, we've got people who died with sicknesses. Why? Because they felt, if I trust somebody with this problem, I'm going to be exposed as it is. So the issue of who should I trust, or the question of who should I trust, is actually something that is so alarming in the level of people's lives today. I'll give examples about a number of things, or about a number of issues today, with believers and non-believers as it is, where believers today are trying to look for a place that can help them solve their problems. But the question is, if I go to this particular church, if I go to this particular pastor, if I go to this particular person, am I going to, is my secret, or is this problem that I'm going through in the safe hands? Or if I maybe offload my problems or my burdens to this particular person, I'm going to be exposed out of that as it is. So people today are suffering with trust issues. Who should be trusted with this particular information? Who am I going to look for? Who's going to assist me with this particular situation? So a lot of people today end up killing themselves, committing suicide, end up dying with the same problem, whereas they can be helped, or there is a way that they can be helped with that problem. But the question is, which particular person am I going to find, who I'm going to trust with this particular problem? So I'll allow in my brother to just come in here and try, and shed more light, or try and explain what he simply understands, or how we can find somebody who's going to be trustworthy with the information, or with what is healing us in the inside.
All right, thank you so much for that thorough explanation, my brother. Once more, my name is Victor from Lusaka, Zambia. So this is a very important and fundamental topic, trust. So you find in a society where it's flooded by social media activity, people are looking for numbers. We have a challenge to find one person who can truly trust your issue. Number one, there are two things I think are very important factor in what trust is concerned. Number one is that most of the times men fear to be judged when they feel they want to open. Imagine this is a person that is going through so much in their life, so much in in their destiny. They have got a lot going on, but they are thinking, if I open up to this person, they begin to think, what judgment are they going to give me? So I shouldn't feel somebody's going to judge me for opening up. Number one, we must understand that once I open up, that problem is half solved. That's very important to understand, because man has been designed not to be in isolation. Man has been designed to, to be in communion. You are supposed to be found with people. So the moment you have this problem and you're in isolation, that becomes a source of problems, more problems actually. So if I now got a problem and I'm looking for somebody who I should trust, the thing that begins to happen is, number one, there might be background to my to my insecurity. If, for example, in my background, I opened up to somebody who ended up maybe exposing that information, I'm going to have that insecurity. So now it becomes very important for you and that it begins from us. When somebody shares something with us, how do we treat that information? My brother talked about it in this part. The scarcity of people to trust is what we have now. It's very scarce. Because if I open up to this one, the next thing I'll see is social media status updates concerning the matter that's concerning. That will now create a background. Like, okay, if now I'm going through this, how am I going to? Number two is how society has contributed majorly concerning this issue, especially with men. As men will go through like, okay, I'm going through a problem in my life. Okay, if I open up to my brother, I'm going to look very weak. Like maybe I've failed to manage. Imagine, let's say this man is going through an abuse in their marriage, but what does society have to say about that? So if a man will open up like, oh, my brother, I think I'm being abused in this marriage, they will label me as a man that is not, capable of handling my own home. And that I'll be like, okay, maybe let me try to deal with. And if not dealt properly, that is going to, deal with my mental health. So strange. And it is from my mental health, you realize my physical health will also be compromised. So it is very much important in life and destiny to look at least for one person we can trust. And how do we look for these people? You look at how they are able to handle their day-to-day matters. There are people out there you can reach out. There are people out there with integrity that you can open up. So trust is very important actually. It begins from here. You and I should actually be very sensitive on how we keep information that many people share to us. Imagine my brother Michelo here, I open up to him. How he treats that information is very important because how he treats that information is building integrity around his life and faith. So this is a I can be able to explain about trust. Thank you.
That's powerful. You see, he's actually talked about a number of things today, and there's somebody outside there who might be having a similar situation. Trust issues. Individuals have a lot of trust issues, and there's a deception that always comes in where you feel I'm going to or I'm able to do it all by myself. But gradually, as you try to strengthen yourself, you might find yourself, moving or walking in deception as it is. And every time the devil makes you think you can do it all by yourself, he's trying to find a way that he's just trying to eliminate you. You see, as he mentioned, God created us in a way that, we are interdependent. We are interdependent as human beings. I might depend on you and you can depend on me. So it is important, when we are, facing situations in our lives where we can just go to somebody and try to open up to say, you see, this is the problem that I'm going through. This is the challenge that is happening. He's talked about abuse in marriage. Abuse in marriage. I'll tell you something. Here in Africa, we have a notion where we say, okay, men are strong. Men are strong. And it being men are strong, when you tell somebody that this is the abuse I'm facing in my marriage, they'll laugh at you and they'll put a mockery on your lips. Yeah. I'll give an example. One time, I visited a police station. When we went there, this lady came with the husband. And the husband told the police officers and said, my wife has actually been beating me. And what happened? The police officers began to laugh at the man. They said, how is it possible that your wife is going to beat you up? Now, they are laughing at the man. No. So that man now, as it is, what is going to happen? There are a lot of insecurities that are going to be built around his life now. That he's going to die with that problem. He's going to die with that problem. Why? Because at the time where he opened up that my wife is actually more stronger than me, regardless of being a man. And he's opening up to say, I'm trying to seek help because this is the problem that I'm actually facing in my marriage. And what is happening to the police officers? The police officers are trying to laugh at him and say, please, you can go, you're wasting our time because it's not normal for a man to be actually beaten by a wife. So these are situations that we face as men to a point where, most men will actually, maybe if we look at statistics, you discover that most men have actually died with burdens. Most men have actually died with burdens. Why? Because they'll look around and try to investigate, who am I going to trust with this particular problem? sicknesses in particular. Sicknesses in particular. A man is going to have a disease, and the doctor tells them to say, okay, this is the disease that you have, and you will live with it all the rest of your life. And you're looking around you. Should I go and tell my wife about this? Should I go and tell my mom about this? Should I go and tell my friends around? And you just discover to say, okay, let me keep it to myself. Not knowing to say, as you are keeping it to yourself, it's actually killing you. And yet your solution is, you know, in the hands of the people maybe around your life. Sometimes it might be happiness. Sometimes when, you know, you have a problem and you share the problem with somebody and they actually encourage you, there is joy that begins to come. And joy, that joy that begins to come will make for longevity, will make for long life. So it is so important that, you know, we begin to share, we begin to identify individuals. We are going to offload those burdens within us. We tell them to say, this is the problem that I'm going through, and I am looking for help in this particular area of my life. It could be in academics, it could be in marriage, it could be everywhere, it could be at your workplace. Yeah. You know, most people today, I'll give also an example of, or maybe I'll bring in this point of actually abuse. Some men are actually abused sexually by people outside. It could be their boss at work. It could be maybe their relative as it is. But then they've suffered that mental illness within them because they are looking, who am I going to try and trust to say this has been a problem? Yeah. One of my friends, or one of our friends, was actually telling us something, should be some time back, some months past. He said, I suffered sexual abuse when I was young. Why? Because every time I am home, my sister or somebody I look up to as my sister would call me and would try to abuse me sexually. So he said, when I grew up, I looked at it and thought all men are actually, or rather all women are evil. So I was growing up with that saying all women are evil. Why? Because I saw that happen with somebody who was just around me. But then he said, I had struggles in who should I trust? Who am I going to offload this information to? Because I need help now. I need help. Who am I going to go to and say, okay, this has been happening in my life and this has been a challenge in my life? And he said, I was contemplating suicide, and he said I contemplated suicide for about 3 times. Why? Because it kept eating me up. The weight of that burden, you know, kept on, you know, trying to make me feel as though maybe committing suicide is the final decision that I have to make. So it is important now today that most people should open up. Now, if he's not going to open up, the challenges that he's going to face is in finding a wife. Why? Because when he looks at every other woman, he's going to look at every other woman as a piece in reference to the past situations, his background in particular. So he'll look at all women and say all women are the same. Why? Because he's not found comfort in somebody who's going to try and explain to them or strengthen them, or to say, okay, not every woman is the same, maybe this and this, just trying to encourage them overall. So I think it's more important that when you have a situation, when you have a problem, you identify people around your life, somebody who's going to be matured, somebody who's going to advise you on a level where they're not going to go outside there and begin to post you and begin to discuss you with individuals out there. Because these are the things that we see that are happening. I come to my brother, I tell him, this is a problem that I'm having. And the next thing I look at it, I find it on Facebook and it's trending. It's a trend everywhere. Everybody is now, you know, I become a laughing stock and to some degree, and they actually, and these people have got a way of actually creating these good captions. Weak man exposed. You see those funny captions. This is a man whose weak has been exposed and everything. And what is happening? It is going to weaken me rather than strengthen me. So I think
thank you so much.
What you had to say. You can come in.
Yeah, thank you so much. We were listening very intently, and welcome to those that are just coming in and just joining into this conversation. This is the Empowered Life program, and we are talking about finding strength, finding hope, healing, and wisdom through sharing our challenges with others. And we are really exploring the narratives some of the narratives that are attached to men in particular, as we are exploring where are some of those challenges that men in particular face when it comes to sharing their challenges. And as we do this, we are also hoping that women can identify. There's so many things that we can identify with, whether you're a man or a woman, and whatever age group we are in. So thank you so much, gentlemen, because you've really opened us up to some very key things. When we open up to others, we find guidance, we find hope, we find a direction, advice comes in. And so we are looking at various narratives and various areas of our lives, whether it's emotional our health, it's our mental space, it's to do with our physical health, it's to do with our relationships, marriage. You could just be dating and you are finding it hard to share what the challenges that you are going through. Maybe there's even a lot of abuse and violence, as has been mentioned, and you're wondering, how can I find hope? And sometimes, sadly, people, because of the fear of judgment, because of the fear of the labels, a fear of being labeled a weak person, the insecurities that we might carry, we might find it very difficult. And again, we are also talking about the problems we have in society in general of just not finding people who are trustworthy, people who abuse their position of trust, the trust that has been bestowed upon them, not upholding confidentiality in all our spaces, because somebody could just come to you as a friend. Somebody could come to you as a pastor. Somebody could come to you as a teacher, as a manager at work. And so how do we navigate some of these, or as a colleague? And before you know it, you're taking their story back to that person. You're taking their story everywhere to social media. And sometimes we are sadly losing lives because nobody, or that person is now afraid the next time they have a serious issue, because they once faced a big challenge when they tried to share their challenge, their issues. Well, Sister Essie, you're having so many thoughts. I'll let you come in. Another key area I think that I really wanted us to focus on today and talk about is to do with the physical health. We've been talking and encouraging men a lot in terms of areas of screening, health screens. And I might be wrong, but it is just my observation in our society, even from talking to brothers, that men generally struggle in this area. They find it so difficult. There's just a general fear of doctors and hospitals to go and just get screened, And we find a lot of people going through challenges of prostate cancer, for example, just to pick one example. And some of these things could have been picked up much earlier. And so I really wanted us to talk about this, because these are real issues, these are real challenges. And before you know it, someone is in serious health condition that has been discovered way too late, because there was just this general fear of, can I really go and get checked, or can I just go for an MOT, just go to the doctors and say, can I just have blood tests, just a general health check, so that we know that, because sometimes as we are growing up, our bodies also experience wear and tear just like anything else. And so some of these challenges, and sometimes even if we get a diagnosis, you'd find that someone is just not strong enough to cope with this. And I think the less you have people to talk to encourage you when you face a challenge, the quicker you go downhill. And so we want to encourage each other and say, this aspect we're talking about of trusting someone, finding your own safe space, not necessarily go on to the rooftop and shout it out, but we are saying find your safe space and be able to let out, have an outlet for those pressures. And also another area I want us to talk about, I think that is also very crucial, is how do we manage when our relationships have broken down? How do we manage our inner space, our emotions, and deal with the grief, which is very real? Which is why I wanted Sister Essie to come in after you've answered this, because it is grief. Grief comes in various forms. It doesn't mean that somebody has died, But sometimes it's just because, a relationship hasn't gone well, and sometimes this relationship has ended, or there is abuse that gets at, grief attaches itself to various scenarios or flows from various challenges that we face in our lives. And so I think it's important. Have you dealt with that bitterness or the trauma or the anger that you have towards this person you trusted before, and now you find yourself in this space? Sometimes we are finding that in our cultures, in our communities, there are other victims that then, for example, the children that are then in the midst of parents that have separated, in the midst of an abusive marriage that is there evidently, and the innocent children are suffering. So I would like us to talk about those two areas, the visits to the doctors and our health, and also broken down relationships and the grief that is attached with all these things. So gentlemen, I'll let you come in, and then Sister Essie, we want to hear from you, want to hear also some of the views from a counseling perspective also. And we are hoping that those who are listening, if you are in a space where you support people, awareness of these issues will be very helpful for us to help us to be aware of what some of the men are going through. And also with this, we hope that you can have conversations in your spaces with men, because some things attach themselves to cultural perspectives. So to understand these men that are probably in this part of the world, what sort of culture have they grown up in? What sort of narratives exist within that sort of society or background in this part of the world? Narratives will be different sometimes depending on where we are. Some narratives will be similar across the different geographical locations or spaces we find ourselves in. So thank you so much. Gentlemen, over to you.
Thank you so very much. You see, what you just talked about with the issue of men and hospitals in particular is something that really needs to be addressed, because I'll speak from a personal point of view where I as a man is not in any way in love with hospitals, and I feel that has actually, or is actually, a challenge. Why? Because sometimes you find somebody will die with a problem because of the same. And I wouldn't say I'm not in love because I just don't love. I just don't love being around hospitals as it is, and it's a problem that needs to be taken care of in a very sensitive way, because it's actually important that as men, we have our regular checkups. As men, we regularly visit hospitals, because you might actually endanger your lives, or you can actually put your life in danger. So it's an encouragement to all men out there who are actually who actually fear hospitals, who don't go for the checkups, to actually do so, because it's actually very much important. I don't know what you have to say.
Okay, yeah. So that's I think it's very important thing we have to know. So just going to highlight a few things that I feel are very important to note why men would fear maybe to go to the hospital. The first thing I think is stigma and shame. So sometimes when let's say a man goes to the hospital, and then you are found with a health issue, some men will fear, the stigma that comes with their condition. They realize, oh, okay, so what will people say about me, especially me being a man? A man is one that is noted to be a leader in society, especially in the African countries. Mostly a man should be like a leader. And then you as a leader, you are stigmatized, and it comes with all that shame. Oh, that one actually is sick of ABC. So men who avoid, actually they have not like say, what you do not know cannot kill you. So a man will be like, what you don't know cannot kill you. So it's better I not realizing that a problem that you do not know will eat you up slowly. So it becomes very important for us to understand that it is not about what people say, it is about who we are. It is very important to get back to the drawing board and redefine this now. It is not about what people say, it is about who you are really. So it is important to find the inner strength as a man, even if they, they find a problem. Actually, if they find a problem, then we are, heading to a solution. Number two, men do not emotional, or men rarely, communicate their emotions. And we know hospital is a place where you need to communicate emotionally. So, fear of communication. Some men, when you go to the hospital, you must communicate. And men, will feel like, so maybe I'm weak if I communicate, I'll feel, maybe I'm less of a man if I communicate my weakness, or I'm feeling a busy. I'll even try to be stronger. So to avoid that, me personally, I wouldn't have to go to hospital. They would tell me, oh, maybe this headache has persisted. But I know I'm a man, okay, Not knowing maybe there's a major problem that is leading to that. So we need to get back to societal norms, Society has created all these things in a man, like as a man, you just have to be strong. But it's not always. As a man, yes, you have to be strong. As a woman too, you have to be strong. Everybody has to be strong. But there are conditions like, the hospital, you have to go for checkup, because you have to know what your body demands. You have to know the steps you have to take. When you go to the hospital, they'll tell you maybe exercise. It might not be even what you are thinking. It might be leading you to even more strength. So society has contributed. Men don't want to communicate their emotions too. Sometimes you realize, very important thing I think you also raised, it's very important as men, not just to be thinking, oh, like I'm man, I'm strong, so I cannot do ABC. Society has got a way it has described us, especially geographical location, where you are sometimes, it will create a pattern way of how we should live. But it's not as important as who you are. You must understand, in as much as you are a man, but you are still human. You are subject to, a lot of things. The other thing I think there hasn't been so much sensitization when it comes to men. I think that is something also we must. So health sensitization is not equated to like women. Women who support themselves. You find women going around, sensitizing concerning maybe it's breast cancer. They will go around. But sensitization with men is rare. You rarely see men sensitizing other men concerning, a healthy route they should take. It's something which men sometimes are vulnerable. You find a set of people that just like, okay, we just need to go to the encourage women, they need to go to the hospital, ABCD, but you rarely find men. So it begins with us men. Us men should go out there to sensitize on, let's say, a problem that comes. We need to sensitize. We need to amplify sensitization when it comes to that. It's very important. Actually, women, you should as well help us sensitize, It's very important because you find women will be like, oh, there's this problem, and they'll gather. Women are good at gathering and go out sensitizing other women, but you rarely see a group of men sensitizing other men. I think this is also a problem because, maybe there's somebody out there going through a problem. All they need is somebody to tell them, my brother, you can do it. You can go there. All they need is to tell you this problem. They just need to bring out that positive thing out of him and say, no, you don't have to fear. No, just go out there. And him will go and will see the light. So sensitization also is one I can put as has been minimal in men and has caused men here to actually even go. I think that's all.
Okay, I think I'll come in and I want to take on from the last point you said that women, we want you to sensitize men. I don't agree with that. I think men need to have ownership. With over 40-something years experience in nursing, I discourage wives to take hold of their husband's health because then men don't become responsible. I was married for almost 35 years and I didn't know what my husband took as his medication despite being a nurse because he needed to be empowered to know what he takes, why he takes it. Because you are trying to look for somebody who's going to be an extension of your mother. When you are young, you need a mother to say, take your medication and all that. And in between, you don't go to the hospital because you don't want to go. Then you get married, you pass on the ownership to the wives. When people come into clinic, you hear their husband said, I came here because she's been nagging me. And nagging is not a word which I like when men say it, because they think women are nagging them to go to the hospital. But this woman is now looking at security. You've got children. If this man dies, what am I going to do with the children? What am I going to do with everything else, which he is supposed to do as the fatherhood of the house, as the head of the house? So she will be nagging you to go to the hospital, and men will say they don't want to be nagged. So I'm going to sound as if I'm going to be lambasting young people, but listen, what you need to do is stand in the gap. That's what you are there for. You are empowered with that. You need to do the sensitization. You need to do the campaign, because older men will start saying, oh, how come during our youth we were never able to do that? They will then start to see, because you are the leaders now. We are old. We are not leaders. We are waiting for you to change the way the world looks. And in terms of society, when we talk about society and men being strong, and I hate that word strong because it doesn't mean a thing, because I've been told that a lot. You are a very strong woman. And I've asked people, what does strong mean? Nobody has told me what strong means so far. I'm still looking for that word. So there's nothing called strong. You have strength in your weaknesses. Yes, you were made to believe. And it's not just an environmental thing, it's men as a culture. When I say men, whether they are black, white, Japanese, Chinese, South Korean, or anybody, all men. I nest in the UK for a long time as well. And mostly they are whites or cosmopolitan people coming from everywhere, Portuguese, Spanish men. Men as a culture don't like to go into doctors because they don't want to be vulnerable. And this vulnerability is, at times, most men are fear injections. Do you realize that? But because of that, they don't want to be, oh, how can a big man be fearing a little tiny needle? So those fears are actually fears which are not really fears to be afraid of. It's just getting there and say, listen, you know, the last time I had an injection, possibly when I had my immunization when I was young, but I really don't like needles. Then you work around whatever. Oh, doctor, you know, I don't like this sort of thing, but I'm here. You guys need to go out and be on the road and start advocating for men's health. Women, yes, they do women's health. They've got a lot of things to do. They can't now come into your lane and start doing men's health again, so that because you want to be sensitized. You need to take ownership, just like the Bible says, our body is our temple. We take ownership of it. Body, mind, and soul is what we do. So emotions, you are allowed to have emotions. On a counseling point of view, if we go back to creation, God created them equal, male and female. Before we go to the formation of the physical body, men and women, it means you also have emotions, which means you need to be able to deal with those emotions. Allow yourself, if you feel you want to cry, you are allowed to cry, because that's the feminine side. Jesus wept on the tomb of Lazarus. Why? He was just showing men that I am still a man, but I still have to be in touch with the feminine side of me. So if we now want to be able to change the narratives, we need to be able to go out there. Fear of bad news, Victor, you said that you don't want to be told you've got this because you're supposed to be a leader. It doesn't mean in leadership, when we go into leadership, leadership books will tell you a good leader is supposed to be vulnerable. So whether you're going to be a leader, you still need to be vulnerable. Yes, masculinity has been said to be, I am the strongest. Yes, because I have to be a leader, I have to be there for everything else. You don't have to be there. That's why you find Mitchell brought a very important domestic violence against men is underreported because of the way society has looked at it. We are looking that we don't want to hear that a man is weak to be beaten by a woman. But Don't we have sports where now we are saying this woman is not woman enough to be competing in that? We need now to check their blood levels for testosterone. But we having that issue. So why is it unheard of that there are women who can be strong enough to beat possibly an innocent somebody who hasn't been raised to be maybe physically abusive? Because we are talking about people's backgrounds here. Maybe that woman, the way she knew how to solve problems is by beating others, but it's only a background. That's why you guys, before you get married, you need to know your background, her background, what was happening, what is the generation saying, and what would you be able to learn from what has happened in her family or in your family, so that you are able then to solve issues like that. So, I just wanted to put that out, create spaces, get on the road, and start advocating for men's health. Prostate cancer is a very problem. It's because we can't talk to the doctors about sexuality as men. We can't talk about our bladders. Maybe I'm dribbling. Now I don't know why I'm dribbling. And you start thinking, maybe I've got a sexually transmitted disease. Maybe it's just your prostate is enlarged. It needs to be looked at medically. So if we can't go out and say, let's have, once you get to the age of 40, you need to have proper checks. Have your prostate prostate bloods done so that people know what they have to be checked. And when we talk about breakdown of relationships, at times we resort to violence because that's the only thing we can do physically, because we are trying to run away from our emotions. We can't run away from our emotions. That's our inner soul. That's our inner self. So those emotions are not going to go away even if you go and do a punch bag onto somebody, or even a punch bag in the gym. You still need to be able to find, unfortunately, the trusted person you were talking about, Victor. Trust is an issue where you can have somebody. And when you're having counseling, I don't usually advocate for people to be counseled, because at times we go into church because those are people we know. That's why you find maybe confidentiality will be broken. You need to be in spaces where possibly you could pay some money to have somebody who is totally neutral, who doesn't know you, to be able to go and share your emotions so that you have a safe space where you feel comfortable to be vulnerable. Because if you go to people you never know. Michelo has told John is going to come back and to Victor and say, Victor, do you know what your friend Michelo just told me? And then it starts going in the round, which means that trust will be breached. So fear of bad news, that's what I think will actually stop you going for physical checkups. That embarrassment that maybe you don't want to say, I don't like needles, or I faint at the sight of blood. When I used to work in the labor ward, we used to have men in labor ward. When the wife is giving birth, men will faint. And I used to have a specialist who used to say, don't worry about that, Sister Sibanda. He's going to wake up when he hears the baby cry. And they will always do. So that's a vulnerability where people will say, did I faint? I shouldn't have had. Why? You have never seen that before. It's normal for you to react in a way. It's traumatic to watch that. So don't be fooled and be told to be strong. There's no word like that. And stigma, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about society. You have to be in control of your thoughts, your action, your attitude. Whatever everybody thinks about you, it's not your business. You shouldn't worry about it, because you're never going to be able to actually change the way people think about you. So I will end it at there. Be yourselves, be the ambassadors. You have realized that's the problem. The gap is waiting for you to capitalize. And you do have social media. You can do campaigns. It doesn't matter where you are. Globally, you are the leaders. We leave the baton in your hands to be the leaders now, not of tomorrow. You are already the leaders because you are becoming young parents and you're already grooming leaders in your household. So you are the leaders. Take hold and change the narrative. Okay? Otherwise, you live in perpetual grief. And perpetual grief is not good emotionally. If it's bottled, it's going to explode at a place where you least expect it. This is where you find in the UK, US, in Australia, we've had so many body count of Zimbabwean men killing Zimbabwean women. Why? Or else we are having young men in South Korea and Japan committing suicide. Why? Change the narrative. Okay?
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Sister
thank you.
Essie.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That is beautiful.
And I love how we are coming to sort of a close of the program today, but not a close on the topic itself. We carry on talking about narratives on this program. If you are just joining us for the first time, and you're following us on our in our various conversations, we are talking about how we find hope, how we find healing, and how we become that hope ourselves. So thank you so much. And we continue to challenge the narratives. It begins with us challenging ourselves to be the change that we want to see in society. And as a platform, this is what we have tasked ourselves, that we will be that change. It will begin with us. So each one of us, we are throwing this back to you, Sister Essie. Thank you so much. What am I going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? If there is no space and these safe spaces, what are you going to do about that? Can you be trusted by somebody to also hold their hand and help them along and bring that guidance or that direction or that advice, or just allow them to be to find an outlet to what they are going through? And so we are looking at how we find strength, hope, healing, and wisdom through sharing our challenges, sharing our fears. And so we've been looking today at how men generally find, challenges in this area when it comes to their health, when it comes to relationships, those visits to the doctors. And I love how I hear men need to be empowered. Men, take ownership of your own health. And so we encourage each other on our program and on our various platforms to say, even if you're struggling, we've been talking this week about the various health challenges. Could it be diabetes? It could be that you've got high blood pressure. And so you need to be encouraged to say, just take that walk, engage in physical exercise, engage in, check your diet. What are you eating? And so women, we also hope, brothers, sisters, aunties, mothers, as we are listening, how are we helping and supporting? Because we want men to take ownership. And so what we do, we don't want to nag, but we want to be those encouragers that say, I'm going out for a walk. Let's go out for a walk together. How are you taking charge? What's your exercise routine? Take charge. If you're going to go to the gym, that's okay. If you're going to go to the fields and use that or walk to the next village, that is helping you, but doing it as a routine. And when we share advice and you say, I'm struggling with my blood pressure, then somebody can actually tell you, when you have eaten, just at that moment when maybe those sugar levels are going to be rising and blowing, going through the roof, that's the time. Just eat and make sure you do this and this and this exercise routine to help you. Are you drinking a lot of water? How is your fluid intake every day? Are you managing this? And so we get that help when we are actually able to have the conversations. So it might be a conversation with a brother. It might also be a conversation with another sister or a mom. So let's continue having these conversations and we are challenging ourselves. We will continue having the conversations. We'll continue bringing the thoughts and the reflections so that more of us are thinking of what we can do in our spaces. So each one of us is my brother's keeper. And I'll just read some of the statistics that we have here where we are, encouraging you to also look at what is in your own community, in your own society. So for us here, 31% of UK men surveyed see their doctors less frequently than once a year. Only 14% admit to regular GP doctors' checkups. Nearly 2/5, which is 39%, don't bother with the doctor because they can't get an appointment. Almost a third, 31%, avoid appointments because they don't want to cause a fuss. So, and we hear this phrase very much, not to fuss about your health. But clearly, let's think about what happens in our absence. Families, what is going to happen to our children? What is going to happen to our spouses? And are we also thinking of empowering each other in these areas? Let's support, because generally that fear of needles is a real thing. That fear of a needle is a real thing. That fear of just that sign is a real thing. And so as people who are passionate about health and well-being, and why are we passionate? Because we are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And again, I just want us, to read a few scriptures to encourage us as we finish, but we didn't want to make this so much of a biblical conversation, but just because the Bible is in all of life. And so I'll just encourage us with these verses as we finish the program today. The book of Mark 12, verses 30 to 31 says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." So these spaces need to be healthy, because this is where we connect and engage and do all of faith from. And so it is important to think about our emotional well-being, our minds, our strength, and all that comes with these bodies that we are using to serve God and to serve one another. Another key scripture that I found very encouraging in all this is the scripture from the book of Galatians chapter 6, and it's talking about brothers. If someone is caught, whether you think somebody has this condition or situation because they were not taking care of their sexual health, or they were just adulterous, it says if someone is caught in trespass, whether you think they've sinned so much, you who are spiritual should restore him with a spirit of gentleness. But watch yourselves that you also may not be tempted. Then verse 2 says, "Carry one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And if anyone thinks he is something that is when he is nothing, he deceives himself." All of us need each other, as Brother Mitchell was saying. And so let's remember, let's not forget that we need each other. And so today, I think these are the closing thoughts that we'll leave with you as we've been having this conversation. And we pray that each one of us can go away and think, how can I change some of these narratives? Can I take time to care and find out how is everyone in the spaces that I'm in doing? Be it at work, be it in the church setting, be it in our families, our extended families. How are the young boys doing? How are our sons doing, moms? How are the nephews doing, aunties? How is everyone doing, male or female? And let's encourage one another and be the person that would be somebody would trust. Let's not be that person who causes others to lose their confidence in sharing what they are going through. As we support, we don't always have to have an answer or know what to do, but we're encouraging, holding each other's hands and saying, let's find somebody who knows what to do about what you're going through together. And that way, you have been my brother's keeper. We have carried each other's burdens, holding hands, so that no one in our spaces goes away hopeless, and sometimes, sadly, we lose lives. And so thank you so much for listening in. This is the Empowered Life program. As we check out, we pray for you and encourage you to continue to join us, and above all, to continue to use what you hear from this space. Use it as it is relevant to you, and may your lives be enhanced. Thank you so much, And in our spaces, if you're also listening and you're saying, I really need someone to talk to, and I would rather not talk to this person who's so close to me. Although we do encourage you to engage and connect with people that are closest to you, that you find in community, in society, we are also saying we are here. If you're that person who says, I do not have a place to go to, we here with a wide variety of ways we connect with each other. And we do have counselors in our midst as well. We do have people who say, I'm here to lend a listening ear. And together we can help each other to navigate what some of those challenges and just to encourage one another. So feel free to actually connect with us. We work from different professional hats and allow our professions to be a blessing to someone, and we will not charge you for it. And if anybody goes out there and is charging you something, and you see the label of one of our labels there, the Empower Life Program or the Kingdom Network and Empowerment Team, that is not from us. We are just saying we are here to be that sister, to be that brother when you need us, and our services are free. So thank you so much. God bless you for listening, and continue to be an encouragement, continue to be the change that you want to see, and continue being hope. Thank you so much. I'll leave our number in case you want to get in touch with us as well. 0044, that's a UK number, 7306 880475. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And if you're a man, we also run a men's platform. If you're in the leader spaces, in ministry, in any sphere of life, we also run a leaders platform where we talk about leadership related issues. Thank you for listening. And also young people on relationships, feel free to connect with us and let us know how we can be of support and be of help. Thank you so much. We navigate all of life, not because we have the answers, but we do it together to find a solution so that our lives are enhanced. God bless you. Until next week for another episode, it's a goodbye from us.